This is the All Rev'd Up podcast, and this is our season 5 finale, also known as episode 9. I'm Reverend Emmett Price.
And I'm Reverend Irene Monroe.
Irene, this has been one of my favorite seasons of all 5 that we have done together, and it is all because of our amazing listeners and viewers. Thank you for listening to us on the various podcast apps and for watching the actual live recording of the podcast on our YouTube channel. We are grateful for your support, your encouragement, your feedback, your reviews, and your comments. Thank you so much for sharing the podcast with others.
And I'd be remiss again to not offer my tsunami of thanks for being with us for 5 seasons and to give a tsunami of thanks to our producers, Kyla Wright and Cavante Small.
Hear, hear.
Well, WNBA star Britney Griner is recovering tonight at a military base in San Antonio, and her agent says she's played basketball for the first time, and her first move was a dunk.
Irene, 2022 has been a long year. Beyond elections and inflation, COVID and monkeypox, a black woman Supreme Court justice. Can I just pause there for a second? I would drop the mic there. And then there are the numerous mass shootings, a number of high court legal cases, and the big news is that Britney Griner is home.
God on that one. That's a miracle moment.
It's a miracle, huge miracle. What are your reflections on 2022? How are you processing this
Emmett,
long
this is an
year?
because we both have had family issues, as you recall, and then the news is always health issues.
Well,
right?
family health issues.
Right.
We are both
That's right.
happily married, not to each other,
We gotta make
but we
that
are both
clear.
happily.
That's right. Yeah, I know.
You're gonna have us on TMZ.
The Revs now fornicating with each other. Okay.
Oh my God.
But absolutely here, we've had health issues, and we're very, very lucky that it turned out well. Everything turned out well. But this has been an exhausting year. But the Britney Griner issue is really a miracle to me. It's a cautionary tale, and that I need to say for anybody that wants to travel out of the United States. And I need to say this, especially your person of color, okay? Because you got to know the geopolitics of that country. What troubled me about Britney Spears so much is that as she is loved here, she's loved in Russia. I say Spears.
You mean Britney Griner?
Okay.
It's been a long year.
Britney Spears has been in the news too. But here, let's stay with Griner here. And
Yes,
stuff.
she has.
But but basketball enthusiasts love her there in Russia as much as they love her here. So it was really, really telling that she became a political pawn in this what I call Cold War between the U.S. and Russia, and we're having this proxy war with Ukraine in the middle here. But my God, I didn't think this was going to ever happen. I thought she was going to live. I don't even know if she was going to live, but I thought she'd be there at least for a good while. I thought this was particularly interesting because this is history. A black out lesbian woman held, detained by a foreign government that we are in opposition with, openly gay, and then to have not only her wife come out and ask us all to help for her release, but to get the president and the vice president involved, and to see the openness of embracing this couple, and as her spouse says, and making my family whole. This was just an absolutely amazing moment, but it was also a political moment because, truth be told, let's be told here that there were arguments that would LeBron had stayed as long, would they have gotten him out sooner? And let's tell the truth and shame the devil. The reason why she was there is because of the gap disparity. Had Britney been making the kind of money as LeBron does, I don't think she would. There'd be no reason for her to try to augment her salary by playing in the Russian league.
Well, I mean, you just gave one of the most amazing trailers or teasers to one of our early episodes that we did on Britney Griner earlier in this horrible tragedy. And so, listeners, if you want to hear more about our thoughts on the entire Britney Griner
Is that a
situation,
shameless plug?
look for that episode. No,
Yeah,
it's fine.
yeah.
It's fine. I mean, the reality is this season. Season 5 for us really came alongside of a challenging year where the politics in this nation were topsy-turvy. The economy in this nation was topsy-turvy. The attack on human beings through mass shootings created a topsy-turvy notion, and all within the same kind of atmosphere of us trying to figure out this COVID thing and long COVID. And then you
That's
have this thing
right.
called RSV. And then, my goodness,
Oh
Irene,
yeah,
what the hell is a
yeah.
monkeypox? I mean,
Right, right.
where'd that come from? And so just a conflation of things after another and after another.
Well,
And it's
this is
like,
the
when will it
time. You know, the
stop?
very interesting thing is this is the era that we live in. There's always something constantly, dramatically, and tragically always happening. One of the things that I think that we try to do is to inform the public about these things, but also to find respite and restorative rest in the midst of the chaos. And so that's why we always end with a benediction that yes, life is bad, okay,
That's
but a
it.
moment of meditation, a moment of prayer, a moment of just silence helps us to recalibrate here. But the Britney Griner, because I got Whitney.
You,
I know. Wait,
you are
you know what
all
it is?
over the
I saw
place.
the Whitney. Listen, I saw the Whitney Houston. Which I want to talk about the Whitney Houston trailer, and I saw that actually before getting on and stuff, and I said, "Oh my God, this girl can sing." But any event, I digressed here. But the Britney Griner story is a miracle story. It gives us hope. It also says that our country will even go to bat for an out black lesbian.
Well, let me ask you this then. 2022 most memorable event, most memorable current event, and the one that you think the nation and the world would never
What do I
forget
think that the
beyond
nation will
Brittany
never
Griner.
forget? I think that the slap that was heard around the world, Will Smith slapping Chris Rock.
So at
I
the
think I
Emmys,
think that's it.
Will
I think
Smith
that's it,
is
and I
on.
think and I know that this seems really trivial, but I think that it's for a number of reasons. One, that giving Will Smith stature, as well as Chris Rock, but it was an interesting night on many levels. He wins the first in his lifetime. He wins the Oscar. He rises up to the highest, rung that you can be on in terms of winning an Oscar. But it was also a horrible day for him. We got to see a side of him that nobody, he didn't even know exists. But I think what was really also quite interesting, why we will never forget this, is the split within the African American female community. Some condemned it, some complimented it, some saw it as chivalry, others saw it as toxic masculinity. And then, as we all know, okay, at least in the black community, our third rail is our hair. So, okay, so that will
Yes,
always
yes,
be something that will go down in history and
yeah.
Oscar history and American history. And we have to see if Will Smith will bounce back. I wonder, is the public willing to forgive him, even if Chris Rock won't? I know he has a 10-year suspension from the Oscars. He just now has a new movie out. That's another one. See, I have my list, my holiday list of movies that I got, and that's on the list to Emancipation. And I understand it's a terrific performance by him.
So let me ask you this: between the fall of Will Smith and the
Kanye,
fall
yay,
of
con.
Yay. Yeah, Yay. Yeah. Which one is more significant in terms of history, popular
You
culture,
mean unforgiving? I think I
events
think
of
what will be
2022?
more unforgiving and lasting. I think Kanye for a number of reasons here. Um, one of which is that I think it is amazing to just watch how in a day he was no longer a billionaire. Okay, I thought that was just amazing because of his nonstop anti-Semitic tropes. He just went on and on. But I think that what Kanye brings to the surface for many of us is understanding anti Semitism, hate speech, that it is a hate crime with a
Yeah.
distinctly different history of discrimination, but it is equally as important as homophobia as well as racism. I think that what we also will understand that yes, Kanye may be in an episode of a bipolar episode, but I like what Pete Davidson said on SNL, who was the man who dated his wife after Kanye and Kim divorced. He said that mental illness does not give you an excuse or a buffer. I'm paraphrasing to be to be hateful. And I also believe this, that if you don't have those sentiments, how could you possibly express them? If that is not of your makeup in terms of your feeling about different groups of people, and particularly about Jewish people, I don't know how he would be able to express that kind of anti-Semitism unless he'd been harboring it for a good while.
Well, one of the things about this situation is that although people are quick to talk about cancel culture, in many ways it's accountability. For somebody who has such a huge platform, there is a responsibility to have integrity with your platform. And when you don't, there's a call to question, and that call to question could lead to these kind of ramifications. We've seen this,
Yeah.
not enough, but we've seen it across
But
the
I think
board
you're
in
taking the
numerous
high
spaces
road,
and
though, Emmett.
places.
Though you said
And so,
because listen, let's be honest.
well, I mean,
Adidas took a while before it actually, pull the plug here.
of course
So
they
it's
took a
about
while.
money. But then but
Of course. Well, everyone took a while because he
yes, he
he'd been
has.
wilding out for quite a while, right? But at the end of the day, enough was enough, and he crossed the line way too many times where the bridge was burned and he couldn't come back. I mean, so we'll see what happens.
But I got a question though.
I have a
But
couple more questions for you.
okay,
This is the All Rev'd Up podcast.
already?
Hold on, we got to take a break. We got to
Oh,
take a break. I
oh,
promise you, we got to take a break.
oh.
We'll be right back. This is the All Rev'd Up podcast.
And that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties of the office on which I am about to enter.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Thank you very much. And now I'll turn things over to Justice Breyer.
This is the All Rev'd Up podcast. We're back. The first sound you heard was the December 13th, 2022 CBS report on Britney Griner. And what you just heard was C-SPAN's live stream of the swearing-in ceremony for Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson to the
Yay.
United States Supreme Court. Irene, that was clearly a monumental moment in 2022.
It was a great getting up morning to watch this. And it
Yeah.
was wonderful to just for that moment, I said, the Supreme Court should really reflect the demographic group of people it supposedly serve here. Although it doesn't change the bent, the right, the leaning of it. Change is gradual. I'm hoping while Biden is president, he can put some more people on the bench. My goodness, and what a opposite to. I mean, I hate comparing the judges, but what an opposite to Clarence Thomas. Just and the interest and the reason why I want to compare that, although they're different, there's a difference in age. I think by 30 years, the same civil rights gains that got Clarence Thomas to the highest court in the land are the same civil rights gains that got Ketanji there. But yet, he wants to dismantle that. And hopefully, and I know she will try to restore it because she's done some wonderful conversations, you know, on some issues here around voting and and women's rights. So I'm just glad that we will not have someone who will uphold, as I say, be a black white supremacist on the Supreme Court. But he is, and to negate where he came from in terms of not only being on the highest court, but the humble beginnings. He understands the legacy of slavery. You don't come from Pinpoint, Georgia. I know this isn't about Clarence Thomas, although
Please.
I do want to write a book about him. But
Yeah,
I
I
just
mean,
want to say that Ketanji comes from a similar background, and again, is not ashamed of it,
you you
embraces it.
you always do this. We try to talk about a highlight, something significant, and
That
you
is.
always drag the conversation down into the dirt. And I mean,
Oh,
like,
that's
no,
the
no,
subtext.
because here we go. Going to talk about Mar-a-Lago. Come, because I know you
No,
ready to
I don't
go
want to
there
talk
too.
about Marlon. No, that definitely don't want to talk about. I don't want to talk about. But what I appreciate though is to having her and to have Sotomayor on. I don't know what I feel about the other female because she's voted in some ways that have been very problematic. But I appreciate Sotomayor's voice. And she's been very verbal. So I think that there'll be a kind of collegiality between the two of them, and
So,
hopefully the voices that we need to hear.
So there have been some monumental legal cases. Neither one of us are attorneys, but we play them on radio and on podcasts. So, Marriage Equality Act.
So respect for marriage is very important for a
Yeah.
couple of reasons. See, now listen. Okay, not only am I in a same gender relationship, but Clarence Thomas and Mitch McConnell voted against it, and part of the the Respect for Marriage Act
Respect.
is also upholding interracial marriage. They voted against interracial marriage. Now, do you think they're trying to say something about their marriage? But nonetheless,
Well,
here, like a quick
there,
annulment.
there
But
you go
nonetheless,
again.
yeah, there I go. But but my point is that she's she meaning Katanji's an
Ketanji.
interracial, and so is our VP. So and this is something that was litigated in 1967 with Mildred Loving versus the Commonwealth of Virginia. Never thought this would ever have to be relitigated again. And it was Clarence Thomas who brought it up and said we need to look at all of these landmark decisions here. So I'm very glad that um, case was just passed about 3 weeks ago. Oh no, actually last week.
Last week. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Well, let's move away from that now. I'm trying to find some safe spaces so that courageous spaces, because I know not all spaces are safe. Courageous spaces where we can just celebrate something in 2022 without bringing it down into the murk and mire.
Well, listen, there's some folks that I have admired through the years that have passed on and have left a legacy. Sidney Poitier is one.
Yes,
I mean,
huge,
I loved his memoir
huge.
that says The Measure of a Man. This is a man that has opened doors, that has really been a trailblazer. And so, in such a way, do you remember I think, now let me think here. I think it was the Oscars. It was the night that Sidney Poitier was getting the Lifetime Achievement Award, and Denzel Washington got an Oscar, and so
Got
did
an
Halle
Oscar.
Berry.
Yep,
Okay,
yep.
and Halle, do you remember that? I mean, but my point about it is that I love that moment between Denzel and Sidney Poitier, because he says, "I'm here because of you," and Denzel lifted up the Oscar. He says, "I'm here because of you," and I thought that was beautiful because it holds up that motto, "Lifting as we climb."
That was somewhere around 2002. I mean, it was,
It was in January. It was
yeah,
early. It's
it was
yeah.
a monumental moment. I mean, we have lost so many phenomenal people, this year. I don't want to call the roll because I'll miss somebody. But the other thing that has happened this year is that mental wellness
Yes.
has been front and center because of a number of tragedies, particularly by suicide, by folks who on the screen would seem to be doing very well, to have, bountifully blessed careers and, huge platforms and positions. But behind the scenes, we're truly suffering. And so this is one of the things about this moment in life where things are not always as they seem, and that we must remember the human aspect, that just because we're smiling doesn't mean we're not hurting, and I think that that's an important lesson for all of us to take into 2023, to make sure that if you are in pain, hopefully there's someone or somebody you can reach out to so that you're not alone. They may not be able to fix it. They may not be able to heal you, but at least you're not alone and by yourself.
And what we need to say, I mean, we need to call it out, because we heard about Stephen Twitch.
Yeah, Twitch. Yeah.
He was your resident DJ on Ellen's show for 8 years.
Yeah.
He was a face that we all knew and loved. And you're absolutely right that the external, the facade, I guess we should say, gave a very, very different image than obviously that was, going on within him and stuff.
Huge loss.
Yeah.
And so many others.
I want to say another act that was very important, and it troubled me that we struggled so hard to get it passed. And when it was passed, there wasn't much said, unlike when, the Respect for Marriage Act was passed. And we've been fighting it for centuries. And that was the Emmett Till anti-lynching bill. It was passed in March. And I think of so many things. I think of Ida B. Wells' crusade, went into Europe to talk about it. I think about John Lewis, who wanted it passed before he had passed away. But I just think about the museum. We call it the Lynching Museum.
The Lynching Museum, yeah.
And I also just think of all the lives that were lynched. And then just when you think it's something, a relic, I then think of the more recent lynching, one in 1998 with, James Byrd from Jasper,
Waco, Texas. Jasper, Texas.
Jasper, Texas. And then the one that we all saw, real time, with George Floyd.
Yeah, May 25th, 2020.
But those are just two out of thousands of lives, counted and not counted, in terms, of a lynching bill. A lynching bill, gets passed 2022, and we had been fighting it for 2 centuries. And you know what? It went by like a whisper.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
But there was a lot of noise and opposition, about passing it. A lot of Republicans that didn't want to pass it. Paul Rand, or is it Rand Paul? Whatever.
Rand Paul.
Okay. That one. Okay. That one. Okay. Blocked it numerous times. So, that was an important act. I mean, legislative act that was passed, and I thought it warranted a lot more attention than it
Well,
got.
we are giving it attention on our finale of season 5. And Irene, before you rename anybody else, can you bless us with a final word?
Yeah. It has been an honor to have your ears and attention for season 5. A tsunami of thanks would neither aptly nor amply convey my heartfelt gratitude. In this last episode, it brings us the gift of not only another day with you fans, but also the end of a year with you for 5 seasons, which Emmett and I do not take for granted, and we say thank you. We give thanks for all who kept listening to Emmett ramble on and on as I gave insightful advice and wisdom. We give you thanks for listening to his intro, his extro, and everything in between. But we give thanks, really, for all we hold dear, which is our health, our family, our friends, and our fans. As we leave this year of 2022, let us release our grudges and our anger, for these are nothing but binding chains. Surrender anything and everything that stands between the sacredness of your humanity and the sacredness of your divinity. Let us remember that we can become one by embracing everyone and discriminating against no one. As we express our gratitude for this closing episode for this year, please remember that the highest appreciation of gratitude is preserving the safety for one another. It is not merely in the words we utter, but is also in the daily acts we do. In this holiday season, we're still in a pandemic where social distancing has been rescinded and mask wearing in many places, and COVID fatigue has settled in. But that said, may we who are inconvenienced remember those whose lives are still at stake. May we who have no risk factors remember those most vulnerable. May those who have the luxury of working from home remember those who must choose between preserving their health and making the rent. May we who have to cancel a trip remember those who have no safe place to go. And may those who can quarantine at home remember those who have no home. May we reach out to those who find the holidays alone or stressful or difficult. And lastly, may we be bold and courageous enough to chart a better future for ourselves and the nation in this coming year. To you all, thank you. Happy holiday. Amen.
Amen.
Ashe.
Ashe. All Rev'd Up is brought to you by us, the Revs. Our amazing producers are Kyla Wright and Cavante Smalls.
Music for this episode is from Reverend Price's son and musical prodigy, Emmett G. Price IV. All Rev'd Up is distributed by GBH.
Additional thanks to Bob Kempf, Elizabeth O'Brien, May He, Devin Robbins, Meredith Neerman, and Zach Waldman.
If you like what you hear, let us know. Give us a review on Apple Podcasts and follow us at All Rev'd Up Pod on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube.
Feel free to send us a note, a question, or a comment to allrevduppod@gmail.com. We'll be back